Hey guys, it's Alexis, aka the Sloth Reader, and I'm here today to do another Favorites Friday video. Favorites Friday is a thing I do every month on any given Friday in that month where I basically pick a topic and just give you a list of favorites within that topic. This month's topic is going to be my favorite superheroes. These is going to be a mix of Marvel and DC superheroes. To be honest, I could do pretty much a top 10 favorites in either category, but I just decided to mix them all together for this. None of these are going to be very obscure superheroes by any stretch of the imagination, mostly because a lot of these superheroes I enjoy for multiple reasons. You know, either I read the comics growing up or I watched an animated series growing up that really solidified the love of this character in my heart, or some of these might be more recent that, like, as I've gotten older I've just really fallen in love with these characters. Good chances are these are going to be some of my brother's favorite superheroes as well, because, like, we amp each other up all the time to enjoy stuff, so yes, I will go ahead and just get into it. The first one I'm going to mention is the Flash, which of course the Flash is Barry Allen and then taken over by his nephew, KF, Kid Flash. I just love the Flash character so much, which is interesting because I've never really thought that the superpower of running really fast would be interesting until I learned more about the Flash's character, and kind of like how they've really worked the Flash's power, like, to evolve into other stuff has really been interesting to me. Like the fact that the Flash can time travel, or the fact that the Flash can move through solid objects by oscillating his molecules very fast. I love that. Like, that's stuff that's so interesting to me that, like, I don't feel like you really know about the Flash until you learn a little bit more about the Flash. But I love the Flash's character. I love that the Flash is the sarcastic character. He's the one in the Justice League who's always first to make quips, who's always the first to make fun of a situation. And I really like that. I like that he's always the optimistic one, he's the sarcastic one, he's the one who's always like, yeah, great, we can totally win this, guys. And they're all just like, ugh, come on, Barry. I just love that the Flash is the humorous character, but he's never really not taken seriously. You know, he's still a very viable member of the Justice League, but he does it with a sense of humor, and that was the thing that I think always drew me to Barry's character in particular, is just that, like, you can always count on Barry to just, you know, you can always count on him to lighten up a situation, even when stuff is going haywire. The next character I'm going to mention is Rogue from the X-Men. Now, hands down, the X-Men is my favorite collection of superheroes. It's the reason why I have so much love in my heart for Marvel, to be honest, is just because I grew up on X-Men. X-Men was the comic I read as a kid. X-Men was the TV show I watched, X-Men, what was it, An Evolution, as a kid that, like, completely made me obsessed with X-Men, so I love X-Men, and by far Rogue is my favorite female member of the X-Men. I just think Rogue's powers are so interesting. They're definitely, when I think of a superpower I would want to have, it's definitely Rogue. I love that Rogue is like a Southern belle. Being from the South, I always thought that that was kind of a gross Southern stereotype, but it's still fun, and I always still laugh at, like, every time they cast Rogue in a video game adaptation, she always has, like, a gross, like, Southern accent that just makes me crack up. But I also love that Rogue is kind of a darker character in terms of personality, and I like that there's a lot of depth to Rogue's character in that, like, she always kind of struggles with that immense feeling of being alone, which I really love. That was the thing I always loved about Rogue's character, but Rogue is also still a super badass. In some comic adaptations she flies, which is friggin' sweet, flying is the coolest, but also the fact that she can, you know, touch people and absorb their powers, like, that's the ultimate superpower, let's be honest, guys, even if it means that you can never have human contact with anyone. The next one I'm going to mention is kind of a big superhero for Marvel, and that is Spider-Man, which is hilarious given that I absolutely hate spiders. But I just think Spider-Man's whole character is just so interesting, and I think that the Spider-Man mantle is one that's so easily transferable. Like, of course I'm a huge fan of Peter Parker, but I have to be honest and say that I'm really, really in love with Miles Morales as well. I just think that the Spider-Man mantle is so easily transferable. It's such you know, so many people can fit into the Spider-Man role, and I really like that. I really just love Spider-Man's powers too. I think that there's something super awesome about just being able to swing your way through a city. I really like, too, a lot of Spider-Man's specific reactions that he's had with multiple people. So like instances where Spider-Man interacts with the Avengers, Spider-Man's obvious interactions with Deadpool. Like, I just think that Spider-Man as a character is just such an applicable character. Like, Spider-Man can pretty much be applied to any situation, and he's pretty much pretty good. So I really like that. I feel like I can never get bored with Spider-Man because of that, like, because he's so adaptable to, like, pretty much any situation. I'm super excited for the new Spider-Man movie coming out with Tom Holland. I'm really excited to see how that goes. The next hero I'm going to mention is probably the biggest hero on this list, and that is, of course, Batman. I basically said, well, which one of the really super big superheroes is my favorite, and without a doubt that is Bruce Wayne's Batman. The Batman storyline is so iconic that I feel like even though I've seen it done in so many movies, and I've seen it done in so many video games and so many comics, it's still not boring to me. I'm still interested in it. Bruce Wayne is another character that I really love the relationship he has with so many characters in the Batman and even further DC universe as a whole. You know, I love the different changing relationships that Batman has with the Robins, and the relationship that Batman has with Gordon and with the various villains from the Batman universe. I love the relationship Batman has with the rest of the Justice League. And yeah, the Batman storyline and Batman's character as a whole is one that I just love so much because of the fact that it's so iconic to me. And I feel like I honestly could have like a 12-hour conversation on Batman. So yeah, Batman. Love him. The next character I'm going to mention is Raven from the DC universe. Now I have to be honest, my love for Raven comes out of my love for the Teen Titans. And my love for the Teen Titans originally started with the old cartoon that debuted with Cartoon Network a long time ago, and then I fell in love with that cartoon. It's one of my all-time favorite shows, period, and because of that I decided to read the comics. But I love Raven's character. I think Raven's superhero powers being based in magic is really cool. I kind of love that Raven is a very dark character. Her personality is a lot more somber, a lot more serious, and I love that. But I have to admit, and I know DC and comic book fans are going to be so upset, but I mean, I just love the Teen Titans, the animated Teen Titans version of Raven so much. I feel like it is a very true to her character, with a little comedic edge to it. But also, I just think Raven is super freaking cool. I think her powers are super freaking cool. I love that it's based in magic. Like I said, it's based in like a demonic form of witchcraft, and I just think that that's super, super cool. The next one I'm going to mention is my favorite X-Men of them all, and that is Nightcrawler. I think my love of Nightcrawler probably does come from growing up watching the animated series, but I do absolutely thoroughly love Nightcrawler. I just love that Nightcrawler's character is still kind of a mix of that trope of like, he's obviously different from everybody else. I mean, obviously he has blue skin, but he's so different from everybody else, but he just so desperately wants to be a part of everybody else. And that's a very common, I think, archetype and trope in superheroes, but I just love it so much when applied to Nightcrawler's character. Also, I think Nightcrawler's abilities are super cool, being able to be invisible and being able to teleport, obviously. I just love that Nightcrawler, for the most part, can be a very, very uplifting character. He usually does try to be on the positive side, but he also kind of can be meek in a sense. And I just really love Nightcrawler. He's always been my favorite member of the X-Men, and every time there's a new X-Men anything, I always long to see a Nightcrawler represented. It's the reason that I'm so upset with Funko, the fact that they still have not made a Nightcrawler Funko, but they've made like 30 Deadpool Funkos, and I'm just like... The next character I'm going to mention is Dick Grayson, who was originally the first Robin in the Batman comics and then later became Nightwing after he basically didn't want to be Batman's sidekick anymore. Dick Grayson is the original Boy Wonder, and he pretty much like, doesn't do anything wrong. He pretty much is perfect in every way. But I love Dick. I love when Dick spanned off and got his own series of comics, and he got his own character arc, and I have a lot of love in my heart for Dick's character and just the growth of his character over time. You know, when he first came out as the original Robin, he really didn't have a character, but I love that over time, and especially once he took on the Nightwing mantle, he really did develop into such an interesting character. You know, he is kind of a pretty boy, and so, you know, he's charming. He's perfect. He literally was DC going, let's make the most flawless character we could, and so they made Dick. And so Dick he's charming, he's handsome, he's funny, and I just can't ever be in a situation where, like, I'm reading a comic that has Dick Grayson in it, or I'm watching one of the Batman games that has Dick in it, or I'm watching a Batman movie that features Dick in it. Like, I literally just find myself repeatedly falling in love with Dick Grayson because he's literally perfect. DC literally was like, let's make the perfect person, and they did. And he still to this day remains perfect in my eyes. He can do no wrong. The final character I'm going to mention is my favorite superhero. Well, we'll see. He's the character I always think of when I think of my favorite superhero, and which is interesting because he is most definitely an anti-hero. He is the kind of character who would hate for anyone to refer to him as a hero, but when I'm thinking of characters that I unconditionally love, he always takes the cake, and that is Jason Todd. Jason Todd was the second Robin. He took over the mantle after Dick Grayson decided to become Nightwing. Jason Todd later became Red Hood, who is kind of like a vigilante, who is not afraid to shoot people. So he is very much an anti-hero, very much a morally gray character, but I have so much love in my heart for Jason Todd. I pretty much could probably write an entire encyclopedia on Jason Todd because I adore him so much. I literally can't get into... I could film an entire video that would be like an hour and a half about like why I love Jason Todd. But pretty much it's to me is because Jason is such a flawed character, and a lot of Jason's flaws have a lot to do with his relationship with Batman, and just that, like, Jason's a street rat who was picked up and he kind of was forced to fill in the shoes after Dick Grayson, who, come on, is perfect, and Jason is not. Jason grew up angry, Jason grew up poor, Jason grew up hungry, and so it's like he was expected to fill this role that Dick had evacuated, and he was never going to be able to fill that role. And Batman always treated Dick Grayson like a son, but he tried to do that with Jason, but it wasn't the same because he was also expressing a sense of fear that Jason was just going to basically do what Dick did and just be like, alright, well, I don't want to be your sidekick anymore. Jason Todd coming back as Red Hood and just like utterly loathing Batman just makes for like such a wonderful story arc. And the Robins as a whole I consider to be my favorite superhero because I genuinely have enjoyed all of them, but above and beyond everyone else, Jason Todd will always be the light in my DC life. Which is hilarious because both my brother and he tried to tell me Dick Grayson was his favorite Robin, and then we talked about it, and I remember at the end of his conversation he was like, nope, just kidding, it's Jason, and I was like, I told you. But Jason is I'm a huge fan in nature of anti-heroes and chaotic neutral characters, and that is who Jason is, and so, like, there was no reason I was ever not gonna love Jason Todd. I love Jason Todd, guys. I should just have, like a tattoo that just says, like, I am Jason Todd trash, because it would be accurate. Alright guys, so that was my Favorites Friday video where I told you guys all about my favorite superheroes. It's kind of hard to talk about superheroes because it's like there are so many renditions of every superhero, especially when you're pulling from older Marvel and DC characters, you know. There have been multiple people who've taken on these roles, and every one of them is a little bit different. So it is kind of hard to talk about superheroes when you're talking about, you know, Batman, who's had 75 years, or even longer, I think, growth, of content, and that's just including the comics, you know, that's not including the video games and the movies and the TV shows. So it's always so hard to talk about superheroes, and also, you know, a lot of people don't know that much about superheroes. They just know about the movies they've seen, so it's like it's hard to talk about them because you want to talk about stuff that's in the comics, but then people are like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and you're like, right. Well, at least because I love these heroes, I try to see everything that they're in. I try to see every Batman movie. I try to see every, you know, Marvel movie that includes SpiderMan. I try to watch every X-Men movie, even if they're not good. You all know which ones I'm talking about. But you guys should let me know down below what's your favorite superhero, and I'll see you guys soon with another video. Bye!